Hello, everyone. This is review for lesson one. Last week, we discussed how a website is just a folder full of files. It's on a special computer out in the internet, and you use your browser, Google Chrome, Firefox, Safari, to go to the website, request those files, and bring them back to your computer. The most important file on a website is the HTML file. And you know it's that because it has .html at the end of it. That's how you know. But each web page is an HTML file. That's how we make a web page. Inside of the HTML file is HTML, the markup language. And what HTML is, it's a system of boxes, envelopes, containers that we put our content inside of so that the browser knows how to display it and what it is. The most important element is the HTML element, and everything goes inside of there. And here's the opening tag of the HTML element and the closing tag, which you can see is HTML, but it has a slash in front of it. So we've opened it here, everything's inside of it, and we've closed it here. The other two structural elements for an HTML document are the head element and the body element. Inside of the head is information about the web page. Inside the body is all the stuff that the user is going to see on the web page itself. So inside of head, the only element we looked at was the title element, and that's what creates our tab text. And when I save this file, you can see that it now says tab text up here. So that, although it shows up on the tab, it's still about this page. So that's what goes up in the head section. Inside the body section is where all of the other content and elements that the user is going to see appears. So we looked at a bunch of different elements last week. We looked at heading elements, and that's H. And you can see here we're being prompted H1 all the way through H6. So H1 is your main heading. There shouldn't be more than one main heading on a web page. If we have our first subheading, that would be H2. What's important to understand, as graphic designers are tempted to use the ones for the sizes, but it's important to understand that the H1, H2 is about importance, not about size. So if you wanted an H3, second sub, but you thought, that's too big, I want it smaller, and you used an H4 instead so that it looks smaller, what you're saying is this is the first most important information, this is the second most important information, this is the fourth most important information. So it confuses the browser. So you don't want to skip one of the headings. But if you care about the size of it, we're going to take care of all of that when we get to CSS. So our headings go from 1 through 6. If we have a bunch of text, a block of text, then we're going to use the P element. There's the opening P tag and the closing P tag. And this is for a paragraph of text. And if I had another block, I'd add another paragraph. You can see by adding the P element, it started a new block down here. Even if I put these side by side on the same line in my code, the browser, when it sees the P tag, it creates a space and makes a new block for that chunk of text. Inside of here, we saw that there's other tags, elements we can use to add emphasis. So here we're going to add strong emphasis to the word paragraph. And you can see that strong is inside the paragraph, inside the P element. The sister to that is M for emphasis. And by default, strong adds bold text and M adds italics. But again, it's not for adding those. It's saying that this word is more important than the other words in the sentence and deserves strong emphasis. This word is more important and deserves emphasis. But you can see we've put the M tags around the words that we wanted to affect. Again, the elements are like boxes that you put stuff inside of, and the box tells the browser what's inside the box. We also looked at creating lists. We looked at an unordered list, the UL. Inside a list, there's going to be list items, LI elements. By default, it adds these bullets. So the unordered list, this, that, and the other, has no sequence or value from one to another. It's just a bunch of stuff. As opposed to our ordered list, OL, and that has sequence significance. And the browser by default adds those numbers for us. So the unordered list is a bunch of stuff. The ordered list is a sequence or priority. If you had a top 10 list, your number one book you would use an ordered list for. We also saw we could add images to our element or to our web page. What's different about image is that image doesn't have a closing image tag. It just has the image element. It's a self-closing element. But if we save and refresh, nothing's going to show up. We need to tell the browser what image we want. We do that inside the tag, right beside the G. I'm going to type a space. And if you add something inside the tag, that's referred to as an attribute. Source equals. And then this is where you put the name of your image. Mine is button.png. And my image will show up. Another attribute I could add is width. And I would set in pixels. Let's make it 100 pixels. So we can control the size with the attribute inside the image element. Another very important attribute is alt. That's for alternate text to describe the image to someone that can't see it. Button with arrow pointing right. Doesn't show up in the web page, but it will be read by screen readers, and it'll show up if there's something wrong with your image and it doesn't show up. The last significant element we looked at was here is the link to Humber website. So what I want to do is I want to make Humber website a hyperlink. So inside my paragraph, around the words that I want to be a hyperlink, I'm going to add an A tag. And I'll put the closing after Humber website before the period. And the A tag, the anchor, is what lets us link to another website. It also needs an attribute. It's not source though, it's href equals. And here we type in, or copy and paste really is a better way to do it, the link that we want. So there's my link to Humber website. You can see whatever's inside the A tag turns blue and gets an underline by default. And if I click on that, it takes me to Humber College. One last thing we looked at, and that was comments. Exclamation, dash, dash, and you can see anything inside of here. This is a comment and is ignored. It's for us to make notes. So you can use it to mark sections of your code or temporarily hide something that you don't want to show yet. And when I hit save, we're not going to see anything. It's there, but we're telling the browser to ignore it because it's inside the comment. So that was week one. A website is made up of HTML files. Inside the HTML file itself, for each page, we've got elements. Elements act as boxes, containers for the content or parts of the web page. The main one, the structural ones, are HTML. Everything's inside of that. The opening tag and the closing tag. The head section is information about the web page, and the body section is the content that the user is going to see. Other elements for text were the headings H1 through to H6, the paragraph, the P element. We can add emphasis or strong emphasis to certain words with the strong element and the M element. We can have lists of things. We can have an unordered list. Inside of the UL and closing UL tags are LI elements for each individual item in the list. An ordered list, OL, is when they have a specific sequence or numerical significance, hierarchical significance, if you will. The image element is different because it doesn't have a closing tag. Think of it like a postcard as opposed to an envelope. With the source attribute, we point to the image that we want to show. And the most important attribute is alt, to describe the image to someone that can't see it. Another gotcha in working with web pages is remembering that this image, button.png, needs to be in the same folder where my web page is. If it isn't, this is where the browser is going to start looking, where this HTML page is. So our image needs to be with our page in order for the browser to find it. Finally, with links, with the A tag, we can create hyperlinks to other websites. And next week, we're going to look at how to link to pages within the website itself and create navigation. That's it for the quick review of last week. But if you have any other questions, clarifications, please don't hesitate to email me. I'm very happy to answer any questions that you have. I can look at your code. We can do meetings as well, in person or online, whatever you like. Thank you very much, and looking forward to seeing you in next class.